In this video, I'll be explaining what I know about layers in Photoshop. If you're new to Photoshop and you find layers confusing, follow along with me and hopefully I can clear up some of the confusion for you. So what we're going to create today is a document that would be suitable to print on, say, a license plate. So in order to print a document that you can print on a license plate by sublimation, we want a document that's 12.25 inches wide by 6.25 inches high. We want it at 300 dpi or pixels per inch so that we get a nice good clarity when it's printed. We want it at RGB color, 8-bit, and just hit create. Anything else you don't need to worry about. Okay, so you notice that I made this 12.25 by 6.25. The reason for that is a standard license plate for sublimation, or any license plate for that matter, is 12 inches by 6 inches. So by having that extra quarter of an inch, when you go to place your plate down on your print, there's a little bit of a bleed. And all that means is that it's a little bit of extra space on the outside, so you get full edge coverage on your plate. So you notice I don't have any layers or anything showing up here. I got rid of everything. I closed out everything except my document. So now we want a layers palette here because this video is all about layers. So you hit window. In Photoshop it gives you the different windows that you can open. So we want the layers window, palette, sorry. So when you hit layers, all this comes up. We don't want all that. We're just going to haul this layers off of this palette just by putting your mouse on it, just dragging it off. Then we're going to close up everything else. So any excess that's up here, just close it. We don't want too much open, too much going on our screen while we're learning. Okay, so now all we have on our screen right now is just our license plate template, which is just our blank 6.25 by 12.25 document. And you see we have a background layer. So our background layer by default is white because that's the settings that's in Photoshop. That's the way it's set up. And it's locked. So if you, let's see, this is your background layer. It's locked. If you take your, say, paintbrush right here, this is your brush tool. Just click that. Whatever color you got chosen in here, this is your foreground color, this is your background color. Let's just choose this foreground color and go in and get a little green color. Just pick any green, doesn't matter. Nice bright green. Now, if you take your brush tool and you drag it, you see it's a very, very small line. My brush tool is set to 4 pixels. So that's not big enough for nothing. So we're going to make that a little bit bigger. So let's make that 350. It's mine's 354, so just type in there 350. So you notice now your brush is 350 pixels big. So now you can take your brush and you can just drag it all over the place. You can paint shapes. You can draw a house. I'm not a very good drawer. I'm good with Photoshop, but I'm not a very good drawer. Anyways, a big bulky brush is not suitable for drawing stuff anyways. So let's just fill that whole entire layer in with this green color using our brush, which we have set to 350 pixels. So now our background layer is green. If we click on that background layer and try to delete it, nothing happens because it's locked. You can't delete it anyway because you only have one layer. You got to have a minimum of one layer. So even if we click on this little lock tool, lock key here, and now it's not a background and it's not layered anymore. It's just considered layer 0. If we click on that and hit delete, nothing happens because you can't delete your only layer. You got to have a minimum of one layer. But if we try to remove this color from layer 0, we can do that pretty easily. There's a couple ways to do it. If you want to go in and get your eraser tool, which is this one, you click here. Whatever your pixels is set for your eraser, mine is set for 31, so it's only a small little eraser. Okay? But let's make it bigger. Let's make it like 300 and 400 and whatever. 401. You can make it whatever size you want. So just take your eraser and you can erase off of this. You can erase whatever you put on there. Because it's a layer, it can be an empty layer. Doesn't matter. Now you still have your layer, but there's nothing in there. Okay? Another way to fill this layer in with green, we just filled it in with our paintbrush. So by doing that, but we don't want to do that. What I'm going to do now to get rid of what I just did is hit Control Z. You hit Control Z and it undoes, however you say that, it deletes the last step of action that you just took. So last step of action I just took was I painted in some green with my paintbrush. I'll do it again. Paint some green with your paintbrush, hit Control Z, and it disappears. And it keeps a history, so you can keep hitting Control Z, and it'll keep going back and deleting stuff that you've already done in the order that you did it. Now, there's only so many steps that Photoshop remembers that you can actually undo. So if you think you can go in and you can do all kinds of stuff, and then you can say, screw it, I'll just undo it, and hit Control Z, and go right back to the beginning. It depends on how many steps that you have your Photoshop set to remember. And the more that you have it set to remember, the more memory it takes up. So if you are on an older computer and you want to try to conserve memory, you might want to only have your steps that it remembers set to probably 20. Oh, I got a really good fast computer here, so I got mine set to, I'm not sure. I'm just going to go in and see. File, edit preferences, history log maybe. I'm not sure where this is. Nope. General. Nope, not there. File handling. Nope, it's not in there. It's not in there. Interface, not in there. Type units, cursor, scratch disks. Anyway, I'm deleting this part because I don't know. Another way to fill in your area is if you hit your paint bucket tool, which is right here, whatever you have your foreground set to, and you hit your paint bucket, it'll fill it all in. The reason it fills it all in is because you didn't tell it otherwise. So let's hit Control Z here and get rid of that. If we take our selection tool, which is right here, and that's a rectangular selection tool, we just draw out a rectangle. Now that's selected. If I hit my paint bucket tool now and click in here, it'll only fill in the rectangle. Okay. Your selection tool also has an elliptical marquee tool. Now that you can use just by dragging it out. You can make oval shapes. Drag it however you like. Okay. I'm going to undo that because I don't want that. If you want to draw a perfect circle, let's get rid of this shape here. We won't get rid of the shape. We'll just get rid of the little lines going around it. So to do that, you hit Control D. Control D means deselect. So if you got something selected there and you want to take the little marching ants selection area off, you just hit Control D and it deselects whatever you have selected. So if I select this, I can hit Control C, which means copy. Now I can hit Control V. Over here, you see what happens? It makes a new layer. Anytime you hit Control V, it'll make a new layer. So if I can turn the visibility off on my bottom layer. My bottom layer contains this rectangle, so I'm just going to turn the visibility off. So now you only see what's in this layer. So this is layer 1. So if I want to select this, I could just try and just recreate this with my marquee tool, but you see that's kind of hard because you don't know where you start it and where you end it. So let's hit Control Z to deselect that, or you could also hit Control D. If I want to pick up all these pixels and select this on this layer, in this little window here in your layers palette, if you just hold your mouse in here, layer thumbnail, and right click and say select pixels, you see that it picks up all the pixels and it makes it select it. I'm just going to try and zoom in so you can see better. If I hit Control plus on my keyboard, see how it zooms that in? It doesn't make it any bigger actually, it just makes the view of it bigger. So it's still 6.25 by 12.25 at 300 pixels per inch. But if you want to get in really close and you want to do some really fine detail work, you can zoom right in. So here you hit Control plus, you can see up here it shows now that you're viewing this layer at 200%. Okay? You can keep going. You can hit Control plus. Now it's 300%. Now when that's printed out, that's actually only going to be about 1.5 inches, maybe or 2 inches big. But if you want to get in here and do some really fine detail, so let's see. I'm going to switch these colors around. I'm going to make the black the foreground color. So that means that if I use my paintbrush, I'm going to turn it down to 20 pixels. So you see how big my paintbrush is? So let's just, I'm just going to draw out my name. L-O-R-I. You can paint whatever you like. And you'll notice that these little merchant ants are still selected here. Let's deselect that. Just hit Control D and it takes these away. Okay, so now on my layer 1, I have this green area with my name marked in there. So if I zoom out, just hit Control on your keyboard and your minus button. You just move out. So you see, if I had this as a license plate now and I printed this out, all I get is a white license plate with this little green square with my name in it, which I don't want that. I'm just going to delete this layer. So to delete a layer, you just make sure you have it selected. There's 2 layers there. I'll show you the difference. Now I have layer 0 selected. Now I have layer 1 selected. To get rid of a layer, let's turn the visibility off on the bottom layer. To get rid of a layer, you make sure you have it selected. And there's a little little garbage can down at the bottom of your layers palette. And if you find your layers palette is too big, you can just hover your mouse over the bottom of it until you get the double arrows. Hold down on your left mouse button and drag it up. And that makes it a little more manageable. Also, if you don't like your layers palette over here to the right, you can drag it over here. If you zoom in, Control plus, it makes your document bigger, but it doesn't make your layers palette bigger. Okay? And you can also drag your layers palette to the left or the right, just whatever you want. Wherever you can put your mouse that you get it like a double line, like on the bottom or on the side. And when that's helpful is when you got nested groups, or say if I wanted to change the name on this layer, which I can do pretty easily just by double clicking on the text of the name of the layer. I want to call this Lori's demonstration layer for YouTube layers tutorial. Okay, you hit enter. That's the name of that layer. Okay, so if I drag this in to its normal size, some of that is missing, and that you can still figure out what it says or what it means because you only got 2 layers. But when you got 35 layers, you might have 10 layers with this name on it, and they might have a number. So double click. 1. Okay. I'm going to hit Z, Control Z. Okay, so I got Lori's demonstration layer for YouTube layers tutorial 1. So I might have 10 layers like this. Let's just make some duplicates. See if this will work. If I got this, like, highlight it, if I hit Control C and then Control V, whatever's in this layer is going to duplicate. So I can just hit Control C. Sorry, not Control C. It's already copied. It's already in my clipboard. If I hit Control V, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I got all these layers. So I'm just going to change the name of these to, so again, to rename a layer, you just double click on it. It highlights it in blue, and then you can change the name of the layer to whatever you want. Oops. You might be asking, what is the purpose of all these stupid layers? Well, I used to ask myself that a lot until I figured it out. And after I figured it out, it's very important in Photoshop. Because when you're designing something, I design a lot of stuff for sublimation. I do a lot of designs that I sell on Etsy for different products, like 20-ounce skinny tumblers and stuff like that. So I'm just going to show you. You got to know what's in each layer in order to manipulate it and turn it into what you want to turn it into. And this might be all still very confusing, but we're going to do a little project now, and it's going to make it a whole lot clearer. So you see now you have 10 layers. If I highlight this layer, layer 3, and I get my selection tool, which is right here, it's the move tool. It's the one with the little arrows on either end. There's like a little cross. I'm just going to click on that. See how that puts the little boundary around it? So now I'm working with layer 3, tutorial layer 3. So I can move that. Okay. So layer 4, I'm going to move that. Whatever layer you click on, that's the one that's highlighted. So I want to click on layer 8. Okay. So on layer 8, it keeps going back here. You just moved them around. Okay. Because we copied and pasted. So whatever one you click on, you click on one, it shows you which layer it is. I just clicked on this one. This is layer 10. This is the last one I copied and pasted. Click on this one, layer 5. This one, layer 6. So I want to change the color of this, and I want to take out anything that's in this shape. So I'm just going to, I clicked on it. It shows me that it's layer 6. I'm going to right click here. I'm going to say select pixels. Delete, takes it all out. So I'm going to fill that in with black. Oops. Sorry about that. So you get your paint bucket tool. You click within this, whatever's selected. That's layer 6. So let's choose layer 9. Where did layer 9 go? We can't see it. It must be behind this box. Nope. Where did it go? Select pixels. There's layer 9. We couldn't tell which one it was because it didn't light up. But if we hit select pixels, it shows us this is layer 9. Another way to do it, if we click on layer, let's hit Control D to turn that off. Layer 7. We click on layer 7 on the layer itself. It doesn't show us which is which. It doesn't show us which is layer 7. But if we want to find out which is layer 7, we can either go in here and hit select pixels, but I'm not going to do it that way. You can go up here and click this move tool. Because layer 7 is selected, you hit the move tool. It's going to show you which one is layer 7, and it's going to put a little box around it so you can take it, drag it, move it. Okay? That's what layers is. So let's color this one a different color. So we want to color it. We can't just go and get a color. Let's say we want to color it pink. If we click on the foreground tool, it brings up this little color picker box. You can go in and you can click pink. Okay, so that changes your foreground color to pink. So anything that you use your paintbrush for now, or your paint bucket tool, is going to go pink. So we choose the paint bucket tool. We're on layer 7, but if we click here, it does some weird stuff. It recognizes that it's a layer, but it only just gets the continuous stuff. We haven't told it what we want to fill in. So let's undo that, Control Z. Let's go in here, right click, and say select pixels. So that tells us we want to fill in the whole thing. But it's not doing it because we got a option up here. This thing is called contiguous. If we hit the paint bucket tool and contiguous is checked, so we're going to paint that, it just does the continuous areas. Okay, it just picked all the green that we were hovered over, and anything that was contiguous to that wasn't separated out by a different color, it changed the color. So let's hit Control Z and we'll undo that. Now we're going to take that check mark off, contiguous. We don't want just contiguous areas. We want the entire thing. So if you don't want just continuous areas and you do want whatever's inside this little marching ants in this selection, you make sure you have contiguous turned off. So if we click in here now with our paint bucket, it gets all the green. It covers in all the green, but it still leaves the black. Okay, if you want to get rid of all that, you already got it selected. You can tell that because of these little dots around, this little flashing dots, marching ants they call them. We're going to delete and then do it. Okay, just watch. Undo, 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 undo. Okay, let's go back and move it again. Oops, sorry. So we're going to get all the pixels, select pixels. We're going to hit delete, and we're going to make sure we got our paint bucket, and we're going to fill it in. Okay, so if you've been following along and you got 10 layers, I want you to go and select each layer and make them all a different color. That's your little project. Then we're going to figure out what we're going to do, and we're going to make a license plate. It might not be anything that you ever want to print out and sublimate, but at least you'll know how to do a license plate template. Okay? So you just right click, select pixels. Where did that one go? Right here. So we're going to hit delete, and we're going to go in and get some different colors to fill all these shapes in a different color. So you can follow along with me, or you can turn this off and do it on your own, which is probably the better learning opportunity. Just pick random colors. Okay, now we got all our little ellipse shapes, all different colors. Just hit Control D to make sure nothing's selected. Okay, so now just hit your Control minus, and you can see that you still got your license plate shape, which is 6.25 by 12.25. Now you got all these little different color shapes. So if you want to make all these shapes bigger all at one time, you're going to select everything. So you click on your top layer and then you go down to your bottom layer. Don't worry about your base layer because you got that visibility turned off on that. We can turn it back on, but just leave it off. Now that we have more than one layer, we can actually delete this layer. So let's just highlight this and turn the visibility on, and we should be able to get rid of that, no problem. Delete layer 0? Yes, we will. Okay, so that one's gone. We don't have to worry about that. We have 10 layers now. They're all individually labeled. But just watch. If we haul this over, we don't know what's what. Right here we can see because it's collapses in a way that it just blacks out the middle stuff. But if we pull this over, oh, maybe not. Okay. So in order to select all the layers to one time, we can go Control. No, we can't do that. We just select your bottom layer and your top layer while you hold your Shift key. Okay? That selects all layers because it selects the range. You selected the bottom layer, and while holding your Shift key, you selected the top layer. It'll select those layers and everything in between. If you select your bottom layer and then you hold your Control key and select your top layer, you'll only select those 2 layers. If you want to select, say, layer 6 in with those, hold your Control key and you'll just get the 1 layer, but it'll add to the group of layers that you have selected. So you can do that. As long as you hold your Control key, you can pick individual layers to add to the layers that you have selected. If you click out of it, goes away. Say you want to select layers 1 to 5. So you can either go like this. You can go Control 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or I'll just click off of that now so it'll deselect those layers. Or you can just hit your layer 1 and your Shift key and click your layer 5 and it selects everything in between. Okay? So we want them all selected. So we're just going to select layer 1 and hold your Shift key and select layer 10. So it selects them all. So we still got the whole thing selected here. Let's just hit Control D and it takes those little marching ants off the edge of the thing here. So we got all these selected. What are we going to do with them now? If we hit our little move tool here, you see how this puts little boundaries on it? If we want to make this bigger or move it around, we're moving everything because we have them all selected. The layers are all selected. Okay. If we want to make this bigger, we hit Control T. We get a little box comes up, not a box so much as a little panel comes up here with several different boxes in it. The main information here is your X and your Y. Okay, so if you move this around, see how your X and Y changes? That's the positioning of the elements. Okay, that's the X pixel and the Y pixel. So X means you're horizontal. So if I take that and I move that back and forth horizontally, you can see that your X number is changing. Your Y is too if you just slightly move it. But if you move this up and down, you can see that your Y, which is your vertical coordinate, is changing as well. So we're just going to center that back where we had it. Width and height, that's your sizing. So this whole selection here, with all these selected, the width is 11.84 and the height is 5.13. So if we want to make all these things bigger here, let's change this to 14. See how it made them bigger? And it constrained the proportions. And what that means is that it made the width bigger. It also made the height bigger so that they're proportionally the same as what they were. We can turn that off. There's a little link button here. If you turn that off, which is off now, we can skew this a little bit. So the width is 14, the height is 6. If we want to make these little bigger, make them weird shape, let's put these 14 as well. See? Or we can just put them as 1. So the whole selection now is just 1 inch high. We don't really want to do that. Let's hit Control T, and let's just hit Control Z to undo that. So now Control T. Let's make them a little bit bigger. Make sure your constrain button is on here, your link button, because that links your width and your height. And we'll just haul them out. Okay? And we'll make them a little bit bigger. Make them as big as you like. It doesn't matter. Now you hit your Enter key, and that makes it stick. Whatever you just did, when you hit Enter, it makes it stick. It makes the transform action take place, and it makes the change permanent. And in saying permanent, I don't mean permanent. You can undo it still. You can hit Control Z button to undo it. Sorry if this is confusing. I'm just trying to explain this in the way that makes the most sense to me. I got a lot of things open on my computer here, so that's probably why it's taking a little while. So you can see that they're pretty big now, and the whole selection is way bigger than our 6x12 license plate. So to get rid of this selection here, just click up over it somewhere, and it should go away. There you go. So we're going to get each individual one now and drag it back onto the main part of our license plate. So we're clicking on one layer at a time. So this is our red color. This is my red color. I don't know what your color is. So let's just drag it. So we drag that layer. We're working with layers individually now. So let's just, oops, I don't know what happened there. Click out of it. Sometimes if you click on the layer and it won't move, you need to hit Control T, and that puts it into a mode where you can move your layer. Okay, so each one we're going to do individually. Make sure you hit your Enter key after each time that you move something around. We're building up to something else here now. That's very important. So once you get all your colors dragged back onto your license plate main area here. See, again, I'll try to move that and it won't move. I have to hit Control T. And once you have your little boxes come up here, you know that you're in transform mode. That's what T means, Control T. Okay, so you just keep working your way, click your layer, hit Control T, drag the color back onto the license plate. Now if you're following along, when you're done this, you'll have a pretty good understanding of what layers means, and layers is fundamental in using Photoshop. If you don't understand layers, you're going to have a rough time with Photoshop. That's the first thing you need to learn. Okay, so I got all my colors dragged down here. So now another way to select layers is just to click on them. So right here, auto select and layer. Layer can be changed to group, but I'm not covering that in this tutorial. I'll do another tutorial later about grouping layers and nesting layers and stuff like that. So auto select layer. So now if we click on, say, this pink one, it selects the pink one. It selects the layer in the layers palette, so you know you're dealing with layers tutorial number 7. Okay. If I want to change this in any way, if I can hit Control T, Up here, I can change the angle on it. I can put in 90 degrees if I want. I can put in 9 degrees. I can put in 27 degrees, whatever. If I want to stretch that out, make it bigger or make it smaller, I can do so. Let's make it smaller. So now you notice you can't see it. So to make the layer transformation stick, you either hit your enter key or you can click on this little plus sign here. Okay, so now we just made that smaller and we changed the angle on it, but we can't see that. And the reason we can't see it is because the red one is on top. If you look at your layers, whatever's in this little thing here, that's what's on top. So if we want to make this pink layer visible, we got to either put our mouse over top of our layer, hold down on your left mouse button and drag it down. You can drag it down underneath our pink layer, and just like magic, look, you can see the pink layer is now on top of the red layer. But you can also see that the purple layer is still covering up a bit of this pink layer. So if we want to make this pink layer go right to the top, we can either drag down anything that's on top of the pink layer and put it underneath the pink layer, or easier still, we can just highlight the layer that the pink layer is in, the pink shape is in, and we can just drag it right to the top. Okay, again, I'm going to cover it over with the red. So to move the position of the red layer to the top, you just hold your left mouse button down on top of your just anywhere on the text, and you'll see that it puts the little shape around it puts the little so now we're going to take the red layer and we're going to put it on top again, just to demonstrate to you how easy it is just to move them around. So just hold your left mouse button down while you click on the title of the layer with your left mouse button. Hold it down. Now drag it upwards. And you see wherever you get the double blue line, if you let go of your mouse button, that's where it's going to deposit that layer. So right now the red layer would be under the blue layer still, but it would be over top of the purple layer. Okay? We want it right on top. Just hold down on your mouse button over top of the text title of the layer and drag it upwards. And keep dragging until you get right to the top and you got the double blue line. You let that go, and now your red layer is the very top layer. Okay? So now your project is take these layers, rearrange them however you like, put whichever ones you want on top. Just highlight the layer, hit Control T, and make it as big or small as you want. Change the angle on it. You can do that either by changing the number in the angle box, or just hold your cursor on the corner until you get the curved line with the double arrow ends. And then you can take the arrow and drag it around and make it any angle that you want. Okay? So you can play around with that until you get something that you like. Make it as big or small as you want. So when you get these shapes arranged into the condition that you want them in, we're going to just set them up here. I'm just setting mine. You set them however you like. Once you get them all the way you want them, we're going to add some text. I find that when I'm training somebody, it's no good to just explain what you're doing and why. You need them to do it as well so that they can do it hands-on. It's the only way that you'll remember how to do it. And you might have to do it 4 or 5 times before you actually remember. But like I said, layers is fundamental. If you don't understand layers, you're not going to understand how to use Photoshop. It's going to be very confusing and very frustrating because you're going to wonder where things disappeared, why you can't find the objects that you want to work with, why your text is not clickable. And believe me, I've made all these mistakes over the years and I've learned how to not have to deal with them. So I'm hoping I can help people learn this because I know what a challenge I had trying to learn it myself. And I'm self-taught. I didn't do any courses. Well, that's a lie. I did do some courses. But for the most part, everything I learned in Photoshop, I learned it on my own. I figured it out. And here we are today. And I'm trying to show you to save you some of the problems that I had over the years. Okay. I think we're done. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. Let's just make this a little bit bigger here. And I'm going to turn this to an angle. There. I know it doesn't make sense. It's not an actual plate that you'd actually put on your car. Unless you do it the way you want it. By all means, print it out. Get a blank license plate and put it on your car. So, now we're going to add a bit of text. I'm going to choose my text tool here. Whichever layer you have selected, say I have layer 10 selected, and I choose my text tool and I click in here. Okay, I'm going to type away. You won't see the text. Okay, you won't see it. I'm just putting random letters in here. You won't see it because what you're seeing here is your pink ellipse layer, which is way up here, and that's on top of this text layer. So what you need to do, you need to drag your pink layer down underneath your text. Now you see some of the text is still covered up by this aqua color layer. So the simplest thing to do to get text on top is not try to drag layers down underneath the text. Simplest thing to do is to drag the text layer up to the top. Okay? Alrighty, so let's grab this text again. Our text tool selected. To get the text, we just click on it anywhere. You should get the line underneath the text. Now just click Control A. We're going to make this bigger. We're going to make it 72. Let's make it 200. Okay, so that's pretty big. The text color is right here. That's brown. We don't want brown. My aunt says there's only one thing that should be brown, and I'm not going to tell you what that is. Alright, so let's just pick a neon green color just for effect. You can pick whatever color you like. You can pick white. White might be good too. Let's pick white. Okay, white is good. So now, I'm just going to click in here, hit Control A. That selects all the text. And I'm going to call this Lori's Demo Plate. Okay, Control A. It's a little big. Let's make it down to 150. You can choose from the drop down list up to 72 point text. Anything bigger than that, you got to type the number in. So let's choose 150. I'm going to show you some odds and ends about text too, but I will be doing a separate tutorial on text manipulation. Okay, so you see it's plenty of wide, as wide as we want it, but there's an awful lot of space in between the letters. Now we could just put our double arrow key over this little bottom handle here and hold down on our shift key and drag, drag this up, and that makes our box smaller. So yeah, it will fit on our plate, but you see the height of the actual letters has changed. Let's hit undo, Control Z, You see how these letters look squat now? You hit Control Z, and now your letters are normal size. So we want to keep the letters normal size, but we don't want it to take up all this vertical space. So what we need to do here, we need to get rid of some of this space in between. So this is another thing that you're going to need to know how to do. If you don't know how to do this, you're going to get pissed off and frustrated. So if you go into your character panel, so I'll just do this again and show you what I did. You go into Window, oops, choose Character, and that gives you all little things you can do with your text. Okay, you can change your size on your text. Oops, you can't change it while it's highlighted like this, but you can. So let's click on our text tool, click in here and hit Control A. So now you can use this to change the text size. Well, we don't want to. You can type in here also 150, 200, too big. 150 is about good. Okay, so we want to get rid of some of this space so that the letters stay the same size, but the space between them is less, so that it'll all fit onto the plate. So to do that, right here, you see A over top of A, and it got a little arrow here. That means that this is where you go to change the space between your lines of text. So it's called leading. So we want to decrease the leading. So leading generally on auto is about the same as whatever you have your text size set to. So let's set this to 150. It's a little bit better. Let's change it down to 120. Okay, so that makes it the same size but a little bit closer together. Okay, this is all little extras. I'll be doing separate tutorials on these. Okay, so you see I got this all lowercase letters. I don't want lowercase letters, I want uppercase letters. So I'm going to select my text again, hit your text tool, click in here somewhere so that it gives you the line, hit Control A. So I don't want to have to type this over. I can just delete all this and type it over with my caps lock key on, but I don't want to do that. We're just going to click this little icon here on your character panel. It shows 2 capital T's. If you do that, that makes all these letters capital letters without having to retype it. So that's handy if you got a big whack of text that you don't want to have to retype. See? I better put my apostrophe in here or the grammar police will be on my back. Okay? So there's another thing here called kerning. Similar to leading, it makes the characters closer together or farther apart. That's not an issue here right now, but hit Control A. I'll just show you. Like I said, I'm gonna do a whole separate tutorial on text manipulation. So right now, this is at 0. If we want to make these letters farther apart, we can make them a little bit farther apart. You can play around with the numbers. 75, 200. You see how it makes them farther apart. And likewise, you can go back and you can make them closer together. Minus 100 is like this. We go minus 200 and it overlaps them like crazy. That might come in handy if you're doing some special effects, but not for this. We don't want this. So just hit Control A to select it all again and just go in and set it to 0 because it's already perfectly spaced for what we want. Still a little bit big. So to make it smaller, there's 2 options. To make our font size smaller, we can hit the move tool up here and we can hit Control T and we can drag this. And now you see our text size is 80.83. We don't want that. And if you make a transformation and you don't want it to stick, there's a little button up here with a line through it, like a no smoking sign, more or less. So it means no transformation. You just click on that. Okay? And it brings it back to what you had it before. So let's just change the, if we're going to change the font size, we want to highlight it all. So you hit your text tool, click in here, Control A. Let's make it 130 because this is a license plate and there's going to be holes right here, right here, right here, and right here. I do have a template that shows me where the holes are when I'm designing license plates. I don't have for the purpose of this. So we're going to make this text 130 points. There. Now that should fit on our license plate and not interfere with the holes, the bull holes on the license plate. Okay. Alrighty. So that's our little demo plate. Again, like I said, you probably don't want to print that out. It's a little bit ugly. It's, depending on what you got done there, yours might be beautiful. I don't know. I just did it for the sake of showing you the different properties of the layers and how you can drag them around. If I want to take this text now, I can drag this down. It's gone. It's behind all these layers. If I just want it on top of the pink text, you see, the blue is above it, the black is above it, the green is above it, the purple's above it. So yeah, you want it at the top. And also, if you want to change the order of some of these, let's say you want this purple one to go over top of this red. I know I'm beating a dead horse here, but I just want you to understand how this works. Okay? All right. So you see that white text looks a little weird? We're going to fancy that up a little bit. This is also going to be a whole different tutorial. You can't really do it now because you don't have the styles on your computer. I got some preset styles. This is just for aesthetic benefit, just to show you. This is one of the graphic styles I got. It's like a bling. And it looks like little diamonds. So that's one of the things that I use quite often when I'm designing stuff, the bling. Different presets I have here that you can make different effects. And I'll be going over that and how to create your own. That's a future tutorial I have planned. Oh, it's a little slow here now. It's taking its time. There you go. And I also have gold, silver, all different colors, all different presets. Some of these I bought, some of these I downloaded for free, and some of these I made myself. That's pretty cool as well. As you can tell, I absolutely love Photoshop. And obviously that's why I want to teach other people how to use it. So there you go. That's the tutorial on layers. That's the very basics of layers. That's enough to get you started, to help you understand how layers work. If you like this tutorial, I'd ask you to please subscribe to my channel. I'll be putting out lots of tutorials on use of Photoshop for beginners. And hopefully it'll help you out to learn it a little quicker. Please subscribe to my channel and click the bell icon to get notifications whenever I put up new videos, which is going to be quite often. And thanks for tuning in, and I hope this really helped you.